Hi, everyone. This is Charles Hoskinson broadcasting live from warm, sunny Colorado. Always warm, always sunny, sometimes Colorado. Today is November 27th. It's a Saturday over at the office. Got my Snuffleupagus. I also have my Bob Ross. And there's nothing better in life than when your Bob Ross rides your Snuffleupagus. Anyway, today's a brief chat, but it's something that I wanted to talk about. So, as many of you know, the PAB is out on the test net, and people are using the PAB right now in the construction of their dApps. And so, on our side, we've gotten a huge amount of technical questions, and we've been going back and forth with a lot of the different DEXs like Sunday Swap and others. Yeah, basically, the back and forth is about features, functionality, et cetera, et cetera. So Cardano dApps are under construction, and I wouldn't be surprised to see them in market very soon, like soon within weeks to months. It just depends on the team, their ability to execute, and how long they want to leave things in the test net. And this brings up an interesting question about dApp quality and the level of support behind a dApp and if it's rightly constructed or not. Okay, so there are a few things that I want to manage expectations on amongst the community, and that's why I'm making this video. IO Global, all the people who work with us in the building of Cardano invest an enormous amount of money, time, and effort into proper protocol design, formal methods, and software design. The benefit of that is that you end up having software that's high assurance. So there's a very good possibility that the bugs are minimal, security issues are minimal, and that the software works as intended. Okay. And the downside to that is with current tooling, it can be very expensive, especially for complex software and time consuming, which is one of the reasons why we get a common criticism from the Move Fast and Break Things paint chip brigade that we're too slow to market. Although we seem to be doing quite fine. The ecosystem continues to grow and a lot of things to do, but we're moving as fast as I think any project ought to, given what's at stake and how much money is at stake. I will remind everybody that this year, $10.5 billion of money has been lost or stolen as a consequence of bad dApp design and insider problems. You avoid these things when you take a methodical, deliberate process. Not necessarily slow, but at least methodical and deliberate. Now, what does this have to do with the dApp ecosystem on Cardano? It is the responsibility of the dApp developer to write a dApp correctly. Okay, let me repeat that. It is the responsibility of the dApp developer to engineer and build an application correctly. Now, great ecosystems and platforms will give you good tools, and we're going to go through some of the firms and tools. But great ecosystems and great developers will give you tools to help you build correct software. But no ecosystem can build foolproof, guaranteed to work all the time, every time software. None. It's never happened in the history of engineering, ever. There will always be a bug, a design flaw, or some problem in software, even our own. Okay. And that's just the reality of software engineering because the things that you think are true or valuable will change. And the infrastructure you run your things on can have flaws. Even if you have a formally verified programming language and a certified compiler, the infrastructure that your verified language and compiler and these other things runs on is not. It's turtles all the way down. So that means that as dApps in Cardano, on Cardano, turn online, at least one of those dApps will have a design flaw, a bug, or other problem. And at least one of those dApps will be fraudulent. Somebody saying something, but it turns out the dApp has a backdoor in it to steal your money. Okay? We are not immune to that. We did everything as engineers and scientists in our power to give the developers and the community tools in order to sort out good from bad. And I would argue significantly better than what exists in the Ethereum ecosystem, even apples to apples. But it is your job, the community, to demand vigilance and basic best practices. And you, the community, have a big say in this as these dApps come online. Okay, so let me share my screen real quickly and we'll kind of talk through it. So if you attended the summit that Cardano held, the summit talked a lot about certification of software. And there are several ongoing efforts about certifying dApps written on Cardano. First off, because Plutus is kind of similar to Haskell, the tooling of the Haskell ecosystem works inside the Plutus ecosystem. And as a consequence of that, we are, for better or worse, able to do things the Haskell way. And so that means you get big upside on testing. So Cuvic is one of the granddaddies of these companies, started by John Hughes. He was one of the creators of Cuvic, and they use something called property-based testing. You see, right here is a great blog post from Nicholas Dubian, and it talks a little bit about how property-based testing works. Now, you'll notice something. It says, hey, a property-based testing framework for JavaScript. So this is not exclusive to the Haskell ecosystem. Property-based testing can be used in many mainstream programming languages. For example, there are frameworks in Python, C++, Scala, and Hughes, the founder of Cuvic, says don't write tests. There's all kinds of cool things here, and there's some videos and so forth. So I'd highly recommend that you read this property-based testing blog that's up here and some of the links. And Cuvic is one of the firms working with us on Cardano, specifically for building tooling to test dApps that are constructed. Another one of the core entities is runtime verification. They do K, and they've been in this ecosystem for a long time. And one of the things they're doing is writing K semantics for the latest version of Plutus and creating tooling for formal verification of Plutus programs. In the Ethereum ecosystem, probably the best suited to do verification of Ethereum smart contracts is a company called Certic. They're based out of Yale, a very prominent university in the United States. And they have tooling to look at all of the different uh, common dApps and applications. And those tools are being gradually ported over to the Cardano ecosystem. And they can be used on the EVM sidechains like Wikimedia or Mamba, but they're also going to be an auditor that's going to work with us in the Plutus application space. And another video I'd recommend is Formal Verification Applied from Pavel, and he talks about TLA. And so this, you can just take a look at this title right here in the video, and all of these give you a sense. So what we're doing right now is we're building out certification levels, level 1, 2, and 3, and we're going to create a series of standards in the Cardano ecosystem. And the DApp store that we're building as commercial software on the IO side will actually visualize certification differently. So if you're a DApp developer and you're learning how to use the tools of Cardano, one side is developer experience. So the SDKs, these libraries, these tools will get rapidly better very quickly because there's a lot of people whose day job is to accommodate that. But then on the other side is the curation of the dApps. One part of curation is certifications, one part of curation is community curation. Okay. You need both in order to have a great ecosystem. So we have level 1, 2, and 3, and that's just the level of verification you've done, the level of tooling that you've put at it, and if there are external auditors or not, like runtime verification, like Cuvic, like Certic. So the App Store we construct will physically visualize those things that are certified from those things that are uncertified. Again, just being certified doesn't necessarily mean that there isn't a bug or a flaw, but it's a game of diminishing returns. Just a little bit of work will give you a strong certainty that at least some obvious things are not present. And a lot of work will give you a high level of certainty relative to the value at risk that the application is working properly and it doesn't have backdoors in it. And a lot of things have been checked. And so the community curation part comes into play where the community needs to start working together as new dApps are announced and develop an immune system and have a professional degree of skepticism. Who are the team? Where did they come from? Were they Plutus pioneers? What level of familiarity do they have with the Cardano ecosystem? Is this a new venture or a port of an old venture? Use of funds, et cetera, basic due diligence. So we mentioned that there's going to be a DexCon next year, Q1, probably at Alfred's Hotel, and we'll arrange that. But one of the things that we'll start talking about are some universal standards for community curation of dApps in the Cardano ecosystem. To be honest, I think we can do significantly better than the cryptocurrency space has done historically. If you look at the track record of our industry, it has been one of apathy, if we were to give people the benefit of the doubt, and malice and fraud, if we were to hold people accountable for the things that have happened. And I do not want to see that occur in the Cardano ecosystem. As an architect, a protocol designer, engineer firm, what we can do is build great tools. But like the old proverb, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. You, the community, you have to drink. You have to self-govern. You have to hold people accountable. So when you consume a DApp, you should ask basic questions like, has it been certified or not? What is the nature of the team? How many people are using it? Did they build it on a test net? Did they have a bug bounty program? What are the external auditors for the code base? Who are these auditors? These are these firms that have been around for a long time with a demonstrated track record, or are they completely new firms? And you, the community, should create rewards and incentives for the audit, oversight, and curation of dApps in our ecosystem. Our competitors like to believe Cardano is a ghost chain, and actually, it's the exact opposite. There's going to be a flurry of activity. And as this activity turns online, what's going to happen, as we noticed with eToro and Bitstamp, the tale of two exchanges, the media in our space and our competitors do not give us the benefit of the doubt, and they sometimes just simply lie. So a small exchange relative to trading volume decides to ring fence a certain group of users because they're de-risking all of their yield products. It has nothing personally to do with Cardano. And then that gets extrapolated to a global delisting, even though they're still running pools and advertising globally. The listing of ADA, we have not been delisted from eToro, and ignored the entire listing at Bitstamp. This was done on purpose. It was not an innocent mistake. This was not something the media just, oh, well, we didn't know better. No, they did. There are people within crypto media who are frankly dishonest about Cardano and never will be honest about Cardano. They diminish our accomplishments and overemphasize the missteps and failings and issues. And every ecosystem is going to have both of them. So as dApps come online with Cardano, if the DApp is not designed properly, it's not set up for concurrency because they did stupid things in its design, there's a security flaw or an issue, there will be a very strong attempt from those very dishonest people in crypto media to then extrapolate that Cardano is a failed experiment and then the entire ecosystem is pointless and meaningless, and they will push that message as aggressively as possible. That's just the situation we're in. I don't know where the malice comes from or where the hatred comes from for doing things the right way. I guess it has exposed a deep insecurity in these projects and these people, and they're terrified that our success will mean that they'll be held to the same standards we've held ourselves, in which case they cannot beat us. So we must fail in order for them to continue as business as usual and accept $10.5 billion of waste, fraud, and abuse in the industry on an annual basis, mostly hurting the most vulnerable of us. That is not acceptable. So if we as a community are going to get through this, what we need to do is we need to stand together and be clever and smart and recognize there are great tools and recognize there was a lot of deliberate decision making that went into the construction of Cardano to give people the opportunity to build things correctly. Thus, be skeptical. Regardless of what the application is, always ask who's behind it, who audited it, who holds them accountable, what level of testing have they put into these things? Was there independent firms that came in and verified the claims that they made? And do not risk the farm. Every single application, treat it with a degree of skepticism and let time be your guide, as well as independent verification, validation. Hold people accountable. What level of transparency do they have? Is the team public? Does the team talk to you on a regular basis? Where do they come from? What's their track record? These basic facts and circumstances that we have. And if you do these things, we will have a significantly stronger ecosystem. And also, if people don't get certified, their software verified and validated, the ones that fail almost always will come from the set of unverified, uncertified software. And as a consequence of that failure, what we can do as an ecosystem is tell the media every time they make a big deal out of something that fails, that it came from a group of people that didn't do the thing the right way, as opposed to it's a failing of Cardano. It's not. So I just wanted to make this video as a warning and an opportunity. We can be better. We can do things better. And I don't believe anybody in their right mind wants to put their life savings, their hard earned money at risk on a gamble. And that's what's happening in DeFi right now. People chasing massive returns are putting money into infrastructure that's fundamentally unsound and unaccountable. And when it blows up, the creators of the infrastructure, they get the money and the users get the bill. That's not right. It's going to invite extraordinarily negative regulation into our space, which will damage the innovation of the space and leave a lot of people hurt on every side of the angle. The only way you get out of that is showing a counterexample where we can self govern, self regulate, self certify, and we can build a shining ecosystem, which will drive high adoption into our place. And the next wave of DeFi, the real Fi, will come to us because people know Cardano is a safe ecosystem that is secure. The only way we get there is by consuming the things where people who have taken the time to show that they're good actors and not consuming the things from the people who didn't. I don't control that. I can't control that. It is a decentralized ecosystem. I do not have the power to decide who gets to be in the pool and who doesn't. I don't have the power to decide what is a legitimate application and what isn't. I'm already starting to get emails from people who have participated in a crowd sale or this, that, and the other on Cardano saying, well, I don't know about these guys. Are you sure they're going to deliver? I have no business in the DApp ecosystem. My job is the infrastructure side. All I can do is build the protocols and build the tools. And we've invested well more than $100 million of research and development and engineering effort into building out Cardano. And next year, probably another $100 million to close it all out. And that's what we do. But I cannot control who deploys on our ecosystem any more so than I can control your ability to issue an NFT. I'm not in power. It's a decentralized ecosystem now. There are no curators outside of the institutions we build, which are voluntary, which means you, the community, have to work with the things you consume to ensure that the dApps are safe. And that's why we created the certification levels. That's why we're creating a DApp store that enables that. It's the first decentralized DApp store in that there is no listing process. You submit a transaction to register your DApp on chain, and the DApp store will parse it like it does the delegation certificates to list stake pools. And then you can put metadata in, including the certification levels, and those things can be verified and visualized differently. But we have no monopoly in that respect. Anyone can create a DApp store. It's an open ecosystem. And my hope is, because there are other wallets like Nami and so forth that are coming, Yoroi, that we follow some basic standards and guide rails about the visualization of quality and the curation of quality in the ecosystem. Decentralization is hard. It's expensive. It's time consuming and frustrating at times. And for every step forward, there occasionally is a step back. And there are issues. And it's even harder when you're dealing with a fundamentally dishonest crypto media. And it's harder when you're dealing with a YouTube elite that seem to be heart set on our failure. But that just makes us tougher, makes us smarter, and makes us work harder. And so far, we've been kicking ass day by day, metric by metric, we're winning. And so let's make 2022 the year that we win even bigger. And it's a game of quality, and it's a game of users. And we're going to have more than all of them, I believe, if we follow through. So I just wanted to make a quick video as a kind of a management of expectations. For all those of you in the paint chip brigade, I'll be very clear and concise. I believe Cardano is one of the best, if not the best, platforms for building high assurance applications. I think pound for pound, if the tools that we've constructed and the ecosystem we're developing are fully utilized, there's the highest probability of security with us. But on the other hand, it is in the hands of the application developer, and there will be applications which are not designed correctly, are very expensive to use because the engineers didn't know how to use the model, have security problems, and in some cases, outright fraud. You accept this if you accept a decentralized ecosystem. And the burden is upon the community with how they consume and who they legitimize, who they invest in, who they work with, who they use to curate. We can do everything in our power to provide all kinds of tools like certification standards, metadata, community voting, these types of things to separate the wheat from the chaff. But at the end of the day, it is completely up to the community whether they embrace these things or they don't. And if they don't embrace these things at a scale requisite of an ecosystem, there will be failures. Those failures will be overemphasized by the crypto media because they've shown time and again that they've been dishonest. They will be overemphasized in social media by our competitors and enemies who just simply don't like for Cardano for whatever bizarre personal reasons they have. And this is why I've always said it's important to zoom out and have a long time horizon and understand what victory looks like. Every single person who subscribes to this long arc philosophy in the end is in a safe ecosystem that's always growing, that's always adding and building. And so it doesn't really matter where we start as long as those growth metrics look solid and we don't regress. We will get to where we want to go and we will see thousands of applications on Cardano. I've always been somewhat optimistic in my projections, but lately I've become more realistic in my projections. And I've tried very hard to over communicate issues, especially ones that are unfair. And what's nice is that for the most part, most of this community fully appreciates and expects these things. And I rely upon you. We all rely upon each other to make sure that we tell the rest of the cryptocurrency space that this is the reality. And not many cryptocurrency project founders will be this honest with you. That's our relationship. It's one of transparency and honesty, and it's a relationship that we built together over the last 6 years, AMA by AMA. And we've been together on the good times, we've been together on the bad times. And next year, we will see our best times, in my view. But we will also see some hard days because of the nature of this business, because of the nature of these protocols, and the decentralized nature of the ecosystem. The philosophy is what pushes us through, and the commitment towards quality and being better and building better. Okay? All right. Thank you, everyone, for listening. And it's going to be a fun next few months as we watch all this stuff turn on. Cheers.